Redstone is a requirement for most farms in Minecraft, and while you can just block for block copy somebody's tutorial, wouldn't you rather know how the stuff works? If so, you're in the right spot. We have redstone all over the world here. We have it in the back of the sheep farm, down here at the super smelter, both here in the front of and hiding in the back of our working Allay vending machine right here, and even a little bit at work here at the iron farm. And the thing is, we've done hardly anything yet. We are just getting started. There's a lot more to do in the world. So I want to cover for you how redstone actually works and give you some information that will either help you design your own farms or contraptions, or at the very least, allow you to understand the things you build from tutorials or from this guide series. And this will serve as your basic guide to everything redstone. So let's hop in. Now I want you to think of redstone as the electricity of Minecraft, because essentially that's the real world comparison. This is the electricity of Minecraft. As you can see, I can connect up, or in this case, turn on my electricity, and bam, I have a light turn on. And this is the example that I want to give you in terms of using the term powered, because anytime you talk about redstone, you're going to hear the term powered extremely often. And there are a lot of different ways to power different things in Minecraft. We just did that with a redstone block. We could flip a lever on and off to turn things on and off. We could press a button to temporarily power things, or we can stand on a pressure plate to make things powered as long as us or somebody or even something is sitting on that pressure plate. These are your basic components you will use most of the time to power things in Minecraft. Again, just know that anytime you hear somebody use the word power, they mean that you are doing something to create a redstone signal, whether it be by these things behind me that I just showed you, or whether it be by things that I show you later in the video. There are a lot of different ways to generate power in Minecraft. So enough of this part right here. Let's tear this up and let's go over all of the redstone components and what it is that they exactly do. Okay, so now let's talk redstone components, and we're going to start out with this one right here. This is the hopper. The hopper is made or used to pick up items.
Nope.
When it goes on top of it. As you can see here, the items kind of get sucked up by it and go inside of it. And it is made to put items inside of storage containers. So for example, this chest right here, if I break the hopper, because right now it's facing down, I have a special pack that shows me the direction that the hopper is facing. If I hold down the crouch button and click the back of a chest, or even the back of another hopper or the side of another hopper, you will see that with my little pack here, it tells me which way the stuff is going, but you can tell just natively by looking at the little spout. It's got like a little spout that comes off of it. You can tell that this one's going that way, this one's going that way, and you can use it to put things inside of storage containers. So I could either put something directly in this one and it went directly in, or I can even put something in this one right here and it will then move to this and it will then move into this. Hoppers are probably going to be your most used redstone component because, well, you need them for anything storage related. Anytime we make a farm, when we make a storage system later, we're going to use hoppers in some way, shape, or form for. So get familiar with them and make sure you have a lot of them. This is why you need an iron farm, people, because these things are expensive. They take a chest and they take a bunch of iron. Now, since this one can interact with the hopper, I'm going to show you this one next. This is the dropper. The dropper, simply, it drops items. That's what it does. We could put these 64 items in here, and if I power this block, I could put like a lever on the side of it. It drops the item, it spits it out. And since this thing has storage, right? A dropper has storage. I can put a whole bunch of items in here. So I can click it and put 64 in there. And you can see that they're draining into here. And later we can go over and show you components that will then take those items and is able to spit them out. But it can actually spit items out into a storage device as well. So I could do this and it puts it inside of the chest. And another popular use of the dropper is to use it to put items into a water stream to transport them. Sometimes let's try that again. Sometimes you may need to get items from point A to point B. And the best way to do that is going to be water. So you can use water streams to get items, and droppers is usually going to be the best thing to use to get items into the water streams. And while we're on these funky looking block, this is not a dropper. This is the dispenser. Dispenser, happy face. Dropper is like surprised face. I just made the surprise face, but you guys can't see me. And Same deal. It can interact with a hopper, but instead of just simply dropping the items, it actually dispenses items that can be used. So things like an arrow, for example, it shoots the arrow out. And yes, it does cause damage. Again, pretty much any item that can be used, like for example, this water bucket, we can dispense water out. It works with lava, a lot of different things. So just know that the dispenser is different than the dropper, and we will use it in a lot of different cases and scenarios in our world. Next, I'm going to introduce to you the comparator. The comparator is going to be a very widely used redstone component for you, and it is probably the redstone component that is the easiest to get confused with. And while sitting here and going over every single use of the comparator is not going to be possible, I'm going to go over the basics of the comparator with you so you kind of understand what it does, how it works, and a couple basic uses for it that we'll cover later. But its most common use for you is going to be to read how many items a storage container has in it. In this case, we're using a hopper, but this could be a chest as well. It could be really anything that has storage in it, a dispenser, a dropper, whatever, right? And then whenever it reads whatever is inside of here, it kicks out a redstone signal. It powers redstone with a strength that is comparable to however many items are inside of it. Yes, now we're talking about strength of redstone signals. It's not something we talked about before. When we talked about power, whenever you directly power something via one of the methods we talked about before, you were giving that particular signal or redstone line or block or whatever it is full power. It goes the full length of what redstone is capable of. But redstone is actually capable of 15 different power levels. Now, usually speaking, when we're talking about using these power levels, they're really going to be used for how long that power goes on for until it stops. As you can see right here, a full redstone power goes 15 blocks and the 16th block is left unpowered. Now, you'll see examples where this is important later. Let's go ahead and break that because we don't need it for now. Because what I need to show you is if we just put one item inside of this hopper, we have a redstone signal of 1. Now, as we add items into this, you'll see eventually we'll reach a phase where we get a redstone power of 2. It took 23 blocks to go from power level of 1 to power level of 2. Now, this is going to be important in things we do later, such as item filters. But as you fill this up, you see the power level grows and grows and grows until eventually it reaches maximum. Now, in this case, we don't have a full stack of items right here because I used some of them down here, so I don't have it. But if we had 64 there, we would have the maximum redstone signal that goes all the way down to right here. Now, again, this will work with hoppers, chests, droppers, you name it. Anything that's got storage in it, it will be able to do it. Now, I've also introduced to you another redstone component here, which is the redstone lamp. Great use for indicator lights or for decoration or to let you know that things are working, not working, how full something is. There's gonna be a lot of uses for this that I can find for you, and we'll probably use them in many different ways throughout the season. We've even used them already in our steampunk build that we did over there as a decoration in the windows. So really cool thing, really awesome. And as you can see here, I'm actually displaying to you something that might not make sense to you if you don't know about redstone. The redstone dust is right here. But these lights right here are powered because you can both directly and indirectly power things, right? If you direct power it, you're running power directly to it. Whereas you can also indirectly power things as well. So this is direct power, would be this lamp right here is being directly powered. This is usually in the Minecraft community called hard powered. And then this lamp right here beside it is being soft powered. Basically anything that directly touches something that's being hard powered also gets soft powered. So this is hard powered, this is soft powered. I could put one here, here, here. All of those are getting soft powered. But if I put one right here, it does not. Because once you put something beside something that's being soft powered, it will not also get power. I could put a piece of redstone dust here, not getting powered. Piece of redstone dust here, not getting powered. But if I happen to put one right here, it does get powered. And we're bouncing around a little bit here, but I can also show you that since this redstone dust is here and it's making this kind of like star shape, the signal's going out in each direction. If I were to say, put a redstone lamp right here, it is also being powered because the redstone dust is leading into it. Same with this, same with this. Now, a comparator can, like its name, compare redstone signals as well. This is actually kind of like the hard part of comparators to like really get to know and get good at, right? I'm going to try my best to explain it to you in a basic way, but there's probably going to be better comparisons out there. But if you take a redstone signal and send it to the side of a comparator like this, you can actually get that comparator to compare the signals. So I'm going to take some of this out. You can see we have a redstone signal of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If I put one block in here to give this a redstone signal of 1, and I switch this comparator to subtract mode, which will light up this, you can see that we got a change. When it's in subtract mode, it is taking the signal here and comparing it to the signal here. So this was a signal of 6. This is a signal of 1 because there's one item in it. The comparator is going to subtract those signals. 6 minus 1 is 5. Yes, Minecraft is capable of doing math, people. Now, what is this mode then? What does this do? Well, this mode right here is a comparison mode of which signal is stronger. If this signal is stronger, then it will allow the signal to go through. If this signal is stronger, then it won't. So as you can see right now, we have a signal that is comprised of 2 stacks of blocks, which is a signal of 6. So if I do anything that gives me a signal of 7 or more, it will turn this off. So right now I have 2 stacks in there. So if I add some more blocks in, you can see it turned the signal off because now this gives me a signal greater than 6. So since that is greater than that, this gets turned off. Also, subtract mode is kind of going to do the same thing because subtract mode, if we subtract something greater than 6 from 6, it's going to be 0. But the big difference here is you get a direct on or off. You don't get any sort of a like degradation of signal as you go. It's either going to work or it's not going to work. And this is great for contraptions we'll use later, such as shulker box loaders and that sort of thing. So we will be using this sort of functionality later on, but it is great to show this to you now because most people don't understand those 2 functions of the comparator. Okay, let's go over another redstone component and let's attack it from this. When I say attack it, I mean we got to get rid of these guys. Go away. Anyways, let's say we want to take this signal and we want to extend it out further. So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have a 6 signal strength coming from this this hopper right here. We'll get rid of this one just to get rid of any extra confusion. There's 6 signal strength. It's not going past this mark. Let's say I want this signal to go further. I could take out that redstone dust right there and instead put a repeater. This repeater is seeing that there's a redstone signal here. Even if it's the weakest signal down the line, it's taken at and it's repeating it out at full strength. Again, remember what we talked about earlier. Full strength means it will go 15 blocks in a line, 15 redstone dusts. Is that the proper? It extends the signal out another 15 is what it does. And then if you want to extend it out further, you could just add another repeater in the line and it will keep doing that for as long as you want to do it. You could make it go a bajillion miles if you wanted to, and it will extend the signal that far. But you want to know something cool about repeaters that most people don't tell you and most people don't know about? You could put another repeater in the side of a repeater, and if that repeater has power to it, and that means this repeater is locked. Now, interesting thing that I definitely didn't just find out as I was doing this is that when it's locked, it means that it will not change its signal. So look, if I get rid of redstone signal coming into it, this thing has no power going to it technically, yet it is staying powered because this power is locked. It is locked in its current state. If I turn this off, you can see redstone signal is gone. If I turn it back on, redstone signal does not cut back on. And if I run power to it, since it is locked, it will not take a new signal. Now, another thing with the repeater that you may not know is it has an adjustment on it where you can change the delay or create a delay with the repeater. Almost any redstone component that you add in will create a slight delay, usually what is referred to as a 1 game tick delay. So if you leave it in its default mode, this one right here, it will give a 1 game tick delay, meaning when I turn on power here, you see there is a very slight delay with those second set of lights that cut on, right? If I put it on a 2 tick delay, you'll see a further delay. If I put it all the way on 4 ticks, you will see an even further delay. And then you can create a pretty long delay with just repeaters. Like if I put in 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, put them all to 4 ticks, what you'll see when I flip this on, it takes a little bit for that signal to travel through. Now, this has a lot of uses and different redstone components and things that we're going to do throughout the season. So it's good to know that this delay option is there because it can matter a lot. Like at what point in time in a circuit turning on that a different signal gets relayed to somewhere else. Okay, now the next redstone component I'm going to talk about exclusively here is going to be the piston and the sticky piston. Pistons and sticky pistons are a bedrock foundation, pun intended, of playing Minecraft and using redstone, especially for farms and things like that. They take kind of like complicated tasks and they can make them a lot simpler, right? So we may go over a couple examples of that as we go. But first, how does it work? Well, when you power it, it moves. When you power it, it moves. Kind of simple, right? And it can push blocks and other things. So we can do a block right here and it will push the block and leave it forward. If we put something on a sticky piston, well, it's stuck on there. Kind of like when you have sticky goo on your fingers and you can't get it off, and just like that. We put some sticky slime on here and it's stuck. Now pistons do have a push limit. So as I go through and then keep adding and adding and adding, once you reach up to 13 blocks, your piston can no longer push them. That's it. 12 blocks is the max that it can actually still push. You can see what happens now. It doesn't go anywhere. Now with the sticky piston, when you try to push more than one block, you can, but only that front one's going to stick. But here's a cool fact. You could go ahead on a sticky piston or a regular piston. It doesn't matter. You can add on a slime block. Let's put it on the regular piston here. And as you can see, the slime block right here, well, even though it's sticky, the piston's not, so it doesn't stick to it. But things do stick to the slime block. You can see here, I'm gonna put that back. We'll put a couple blocks around it here and push the button. As you can see, it moves all of them. Everything sticks to the slime block except the face of a piston for some reason. If I put the slime block on a sticky piston, however, as you can see, can I reach this? There we go. All of them move just like that. So cool little thing. We're not going to go too into depth in terms of all the things you could do with this right now. Flying machines coming soon to a Bedrock guide near you. But I wanted you guys to see how that works. So now you have a better understanding of what pistons can do, how they work, what their limitations are, the differences, etc. Now though, I think it's a good time for us to jump into some examples of how you can put some of these things together in your world. Except I'm not done. I forgot the observer. The observer is such a useful block. It's this guy right here. That's the observer's butt. This is his face. And the observer, basically, it does what its name is. It observes things that are happening. And anytime it sees something happen, it sends out a redstone signal. It's really that simple. So just for demonstration purposes, I'll put a redstone signal there. And let's say I put a lever right here. Well, when I place the lever down, it gave me a redstone signal. When I break the lever, it gave me a redstone signal. If I turn the lever on, turn the lever off, the observer observes all. It sees all these things happening. It doesn't see the player or mobs walking per se, but it does see any type of like block state changes at all. Also, a couple things that we didn't talk about. I keep like coming across them. These are probably like lesser needed explanations, but if you want to provide redstone power to something, you do have this thing called a redstone torch. Redstone torches are extremely useful for a lot of different builds. You can place them just like you do a regular torch on top of things. And redstone torches can be used to like change the signal of something. You could do that by doing something like this, which is called a torch tower, because every time you give a redstone torch power, it turns that power source off. We use this quite a bit for a lot of different things, such as like inverting the signal from on to off in different areas of a redstone device. It is extremely useful, and you will see me use this in a lot of scenarios later on. Also, I'm not a big user of these, but I would probably be flamed in the comment section down below if I didn't show it. We do also have the target block. The target block also can generate a redstone signal based on the target being hit. It does have other uses as well, some for Bedrock Edition, some for Java Edition. There's not parity with the target block in terms of how it works. Hopefully that is something they will fix in the future, but I'm not as familiar with the additional uses of the target block, so I'm not going to pretend to go over it. Okay, so I want to show you something that can honestly be a little confusing for people, and I think it's good to know. And this is going to be the basis of a lot of what we do when it comes to setting up storage systems for farms. So we have two different setups here. We have two where a hopper is facing forward and a hopper is facing forward, and then one where a hopper is facing forward and a hopper is facing down. Now, hoppers work in two ways. They will both move items into an area and they will pull items from storage. So in this scenario, we have both this hopper right here pushing items into this hopper and simultaneously this hopper taking items from this hopper. Two actions are happening at once. Over here, this hopper is not putting items inside of this hopper, but this hopper is taking items from this hopper. So one of those two actions is true, therefore it is working. So starting over here in this scenario, if I put a bunch of items in here, I'm just going to put a stack of this and I lock this hopper, because whenever you power a hopper, it is locked. And with my pack here, you can see it's locked because this turns a bright red. With your hoppers in your world, if you don't have this pack, there's no way to visibly tell, right? But I've locked this hopper, but items are still getting taken out of it. You can see it's getting drained of its items. Well, that's because this hopper right here is not locked. It's still able to pull items out of this one. So not going to do anything. Over here, same story. If I do that, if I lock this hopper, it does technically stop it from pushing items down, but it does not stop this one from sucking items in. And actually, a cool thing that you can look at and see here, two items are getting pulled at once, right? That's because this one's moving items down and this one's sucking items in. If I do this right here to lock this hopper, it does slow the speed down at which it takes items in half. Basically, now it's moving at one item at a time instead of two. Now, back over here, if I lock this hopper right here and put 64 items up here, they're not moving because this one is not trying to push items down in, it's still trying to push them forward. But this one right here is not able to suck items in because this hopper is powered. If I unpower the hopper, it takes items in. If I power the hopper, it stops moving items, both bringing them in and pushing them out. But as you can see here, if I were to say put a chest right here, the items are able to go into this chest perfectly fine. On the other hand, this right here, if I lock the bottom hopper and put items into the top hopper, one item at a time is still moving down into this hopper, because even though this is not allowed to push items out, this is still forcefully pushing items into it. If I lock both of the hoppers, you see now no items are being moved. I wanted to spend a lot of time on that because it's something that a lot of people don't really understand, and it'll have meaning in many episodes that we do later on in the series. Okay, next let's talk about a couple of clocks, because clocks are going to be a big thing that are going to work in your world, or you're going to use in your world. So the basics of how a clock works is you're going to have a comparator that reads a redstone signal coming out of whatever. It could be a powered block, it could be a hopper chest, whatever. It's going to get a redstone signal coming out, and it's going to send that signal around. And when you put the comparator in subtraction mode, based on what I told you guys earlier about subtraction mode, it is going to continually lower the signal until it cuts it off, and then the signal cuts back on again. And it basically creates this looping effect. And there's a couple of different ways that you can make these clocks, and it's important to understand how these things work, right? So first of all, if I were to add one item into this hopper, I have not created a clock because the signal is a one signal strength. It's not enough to do really anything, right? But if I go through and add enough items into the hopper to make a full signal to go all the way around, it will power my device that's here. And when I turn it into subtract mode, it's going to do that loopy thing that I told you about just a second ago and create what is called a clock, where it just continually like pulses a signal. Now, the reason I wanted to show you this is because in a lot of cases, when you make things in the game, I can think of something like an item elevator, which I'll show you in a little bit. For example, you might only want to detect or have a clock activate when one item is in the hopper, the dropper, whatever it is. Well, we can do that. In fact, it just requires a slight modification. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to add in a repeater. Remember what a repeater does, right? It gives us a full signal strength coming out. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to create a loop. And there we go. So basically, I can now make a clock anytime a single item passes through or sits in a hopper or any type of storage device. This is incredibly useful. I use this all the time. Now, if you're not going to be powering with a hopper, and say you just want something that's like an on-off switch for a clock, well, then just doing something like adding a lever at the end is good enough. Like this works perfectly fine. It'll give you full power, and then it will be able to make your fast clock. Here's an example of a few of these redstone systems that I've talked about so far. We'll talk about a couple more here, but here's an example of a couple of them at work. we have our system inside of the LA vending machine. We have an item filter right here, which uses a comparator to see whenever an item comes through this hopper line here. We'll do item filters, like we'll do that kind of stuff later on. It sends a signal out once it gets to a certain strength. It powers a block to lock a hopper. All of these things kind of happen. We have hoppers moving items that are not part of the system out, items that are the filter item, in this case the amethyst shard, in. And then over here we have a comparator that is waiting to see an item pass through here to activate this system. I'm not going to go over specific redstone circuits today like this, which is a rising edge monostable circuit, because I am not ultra familiar with them. I kind of know I need them when I need them, but I don't have all of them memorized and am not great with all of their uses. But eventually this sends a signal all the way down here, which will trigger my piston to pull a block out the way and let a minecart that has an allay out with it. So super cool the way you can combine a lot of these systems together, and we will continue to go over these throughout the season, and I'll make sure that I explain why and how things work as we go. Now I want to show you a couple more clocks that are very popular to use. Here's one that is extremely small and extremely easy. It is very simply an observer clock. You make two observers look at each other and they basically just have a big argument or fight about it. Bruh. They both see that they see each other and they keep updating to tell each other that they see each other. So you end up with something like this happening where you kind of have this back and forth or a clock-like signal coming out. Observer clocks, they could be a little laggy, so I would never use a whole lot of them in one area really, but they are really great for certain situations. Okay, so next let's take a look at what is the probably most useful clock in all of Minecraft, the Etho hopper clock. Now, it's called the Etho hopper clock because it was made by a guy named Etho a long time ago, who is still a great content creator today in the Java space. This clock doesn't look exactly the same as his first version. It can be built with these top blocks on the side instead of in the front. But this is the clock. This is it right here. This is the one you have to know. On Bedrock Edition, it's a little bit different than Java Edition. On Bedrock Edition, you can have normal pistons instead of sticky pistons. Java has to use sticky pistons. We can use either here on Bedrock. And essentially what you do is you put an item in one of the hoppers, and as that item shifts back and forth, the redstone block locks one hopper or the other, and it kind of makes this clock go either way. You can get a signal from this clock by pulling it off of the redstone dust here or pulling it off of the redstone block right there. Either way is fine. But the cool thing is this is adjustable. The more items you put inside of it, the longer that it takes to work, right? So if you put a number of items in there, it will flow all from one side to the other. And then once they get over here, all of those items will flow back. So you can make this clock pretty much timed to whatever your particular need or situation is. Remember this one because you're going to use it. Last but not least here, let's get to a few key examples that you're going to use quite often. And first, we're going to start with a traditional like hopper item storage system. You're going to use this in a lot of your farms. If you don't need or want to do sorting of the items, this thing is perfect for mass storage of items coming from a farm. Basically, it uses what the hoppers naturally do to sort your items in a reasonable fashion. Hoppers always move items in that single direction, right? In this case, they're going from left to right the way I'm facing. And a hopper will always try to pull an item from a storage device before it tries to push them. So basically, when an item goes from here to here, the order of events is this hopper that's down here will pull the item down before this hopper pushes the item over. So item goes over and then down. And that is true all the way down the chain. So when the item then gets to here, what happens is it goes down again because this hopper is sucking it out of there. It does not get pushed into here. So your flow of items is over one, down, 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 into chest. And then what'll happen is once this chest right here fills up, then this chest can fill up, then this chest can fill up. So you can kind of see as I put items in here, they're going into here. They're not going this way. They're going down, but not into here, not into here. They're all going into here. So whenever you make a system like this, it's pretty organized. All of your items start here, then here, then here, and then this way, and then this way, just like that. And last but not least, we have a water elevator. These are very common to use as item elevators in a lot of different systems. There's different ways to make these. I wanted to make a very simple one here for you guys today that will show you a few different mechanics that we talked about all working together. We could take a hopper here and we could put items into this dropper. Once an item is in that dropper, this comparator can read through this block that an item is in a dropper. It will then send a signal to this repeater which will give us a full redstone signal. Remember, we talked about that. Our comparator is in subtraction mode, so it'll do the clock action of always repeating itself over and over again. And then we have a piece of redstone dust facing into this block. This block is being hard powered, which means that any blocks touching it are being soft powered. The dropper's being soft powered. The items will go up the water. It will then go into this hopper right here, which is going to collect it and put it in this chest. So if you want to see that system work, there you go. You can see those items going in and they will bunch together a little bit and they will work their way up and work their way into the chest up here. Great way to move items from one location to another when you're talking about moving them vertically. As far as redstone goes, that's what I have for you here today. If you learned something today, let me know down in the comment section below. If you have any other basic redstone tips and tricks you'd like to share them down in the comment section below. Otherwise, leave the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, because how dare you not be subscribed. Please click the subscribe button and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.